the dumbbell version of the decline press for the pecs. And I want you to notice first that we've placed these weights right here on the pedestals alongside. Once you lie down, you pick up one weight, then the other weight, you do your set, then you put the weights down on the pedestal, and you don't have to worry about getting in and out of the thing. So this looks like, now from this angle, what I want you to notice is that his forearms are mostly vertical. Brings the dumbbells up and down, his forearms are completely vertical.
I know that we talked about the barbell bench press, and we talked about full range of motion is when you extend the arms outside and then you bring them toward the middle. So as you can see in this tool, the movement of the arms at the end, is coming together. So what do you think of that?
Okay, well, the first thing I'll say is that I was observing to see whether or not those sleeves are somehow connected to each other in a way that prevents one from going too far out before the other one does. So it appears to be technically made in a way that causes them to move out at the same rate, at the same distance from the center. They're maybe connected by a little cable or something. That's what it looks like, which is a good thing. I mean, it would be bad if they were independent. If one slid out and the other one didn't. And so at least you can keep the thing symmetrically balanced.
What if not?
Well, the bar would probably fall to one side.
Mm-hmm.
You would have too much bar left over on one side and not so much on the other side. And then it would start to tip.
Gotcha.
That's number one. Number two is, of course, I can't feel it because, I'm not there, but I'm wondering how much drag there is if there's a ball bearing or some type of, slickness that eliminates the drag that would happen if you were literally, rubbing something over something else.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly you get a more complete range of motion, but here's the thing. Let's say you're at the top and your hands are together, meaning that the insertion of the pectoral is as close to the origin as it can be. However, what direction is the direction of resistance? Still straight down. Okay, so I don't have any opposing resistance here. If I had cables that were coming from a slight outward angle, I would have some opposition here. So, if you have a direction of resistance that's going straight down, you're not going to have anything trying to pull your arms apart.
Yeah.
So your pectoral in that contracted position isn't having to fight against any resistance, whereas it would if you had some cables. So this is basically similar to a dumbbell press, meaning the direction of the resistance is very much like that of the dumbbells, straight down, right? So when you get to the top, it's basically zero. And when you get to the bottom, you're only dealing with the moment of the upper arm. I would simply say just use dumbbells.
Yeah.
In other words, now that you're using a barbell and making these handles do what dumbbells do, which is essentially allowing your arms to open and close, you'd have to say, okay, so I don't know how much this bar costs, but it's not giving me an advantage over the dumbbells. Is it worse than the dumbbells? I don't know without trying it, but I don't think it's worse than the dumbbells. I think the dumbbells are fine. There's nothing wrong with using dumbbells for your pectoral exercise. This simulates what the dumbbells would do, allowing your arms to open, allowing your arms to close, allowing you to keep your hands over your elbows.
Yeah.
So there's really no advantage or disadvantage over the dumbbells. We have to assume that there is a little bit of friction, right? It's not like the dumbbells in that you have zero connection to anything else. So there's zero friction here. There is some sliding. Now, of course, it's ball bearings. It'll be minimized, but you are going to get a little bit of force requirement because of the friction to pull them in. But if anything, it's the bicep, not the tricep,
okay,
right? Because you're pulling inward, you're not pushing outward, right? So again, the direction of resistance would be slightly out, direction of anatomical movement is slightly in. So you'd be opposing the forearm that way, which would activate the bicep because of that opposition.
Right.
So, but it doesn't look like there's much friction on the bar. Now, I've seen a similar version of this where it's a push-up and you're on the floor and you've got this contraption that looks like that, and you slide as you come up. Now, again, same basic thing. If you've got some friction there, then it'll work in your favor because you're having to pull in with a certain amount of force to overcome that friction, and that's going to work your chest. Mm-hmm. I have to try it. It could be that there's a very, very, very slight advantage because of the friction that keeps you from easily bringing them toward the center as compared to dumbbells.
Mm-hmm. Do you say that for those who don't have equipment at home, that equipment that when they do a push-up, like, is that a good alternative?
Well, I would say I would rather have the barbell version of that sliding thing than the push-up version of that sliding thing, because the barbell version gives me infinite variability of resistance. Push-ups have still got body weight, right? So now what do I do if I want to lessen the resistance? Let's say I want to get more reps for my warm-up sets. Let's say I want to add resistance. How much resistance can I possibly add to my torso without having somebody stack plates on top of my back? So barbell at least gives you more variability. You can go as light as the barbell, which probably weighs 45 pounds or maybe slightly more because of the additional material. And you can go as heavy as you want to, 315, 405, whatever, assuming you can handle. Keep in mind that using a barbell with those sliding sleeves drastically changes the dynamic of a standard barbell press. Standard barbell press, you can't slide your hands. So you're actually pushing linearly out and you're activating the tricep. So that allows you to use more weight than you'd be able to use with that thing, because now you can't rely on your triceps.
And if you compare this exercise, I mean, like that equipment to a regular push-up, let's say the person doesn't have a bar and doesn't have dumbbells. Is that one better than the regular push-up?
Well, the regular push-up is the biggest problem with it is the lack of range of motion. The second biggest problem is the lack of variability of resistance. So yes, I would say that's probably a better way of doing a push-up. The barbell version of that, you would find that it does work the pecs better than a standard barbell press because you're actually pulling toward the midline. By the way, you can work your pecs more with less weight on a barbell because of those sliding sleeves than you would with a standard barbell. So again, I want to emphasize that don't be seduced into thinking that the more weight that's on the barbell alone determines how much load the pectorals are getting.
I will give it, I'm curious, I'll see if I can buy that thing to just try it and get a feel for it.
Yeah, good idea.
Let's see this machine. All right.
Okay. And that's a hammer strength machine. And I've used that before. And there's an interesting thing that happens on that machine because the hinge on that machine is at a diagonal, right? So if you were to just, let's say, lift the handle and let it go down, it wouldn't go straight down. It would go down at a diagonal. It's following the hinge, right? So that is the direction of resistance. It is outward, right? So I remember probably must have been the 90s, I think, that the hammer machines first came out. And, I didn't know as much then as I do now, but I did love them. I did think, finally, they're making a machine that doesn't copy the same flaw that's in a bench press. Before that, all the bench press machines they had went straight out and didn't bring your hands together. And now finally they made a machine that bypasses that flaw. lets you bring your hands together. Now, what I like about this better than that sleeve is that you do have an outward direction of resistance, not a straight down direction. So when you're at the top, it's actually trying to get apart.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
You are actually having to work to bring your hands together still at the end. So that's a good thing. Now, you'll notice that because of the way it's pivoted, those lever arms, they start kind of like this and they kind of go toward the head, which means that they're lower, they're more in a flat bench position in the beginning, and they actually move into what might be considered a slightly inclined direction of movement. In other words, you end up with your hands over your face, not over your chest, even though you started with them at the chest height, chest level. If you'd have gone straight out, you would, but because the angle's slightly up, you end up over your face. So now you're moving away from the sternum. You're moving away from the clavicle. So that same machine right there, there is a slight decline version of it.
Yeah.
That would be better. If you had a slight decline version of that, you could start off with what might be considered a slight decline hand position and move toward a flat, and that would be better.
What does that rank as compared to the best chest exercises we recommended, the Brick 20?
This could be number 3. You know, the thing that I always think about is, because I work out in a garage, right? I always think about what exercises can we do that incorporate apparatus that has more than one purpose, right? If you have an adjustable decline bench, you can do a lot of different exercises on it, right? You can do your triceps, you can do your side deltoid, you can do your decline, you can do the front deltoid. Cables, of course, are multifunctional. That machine does one thing. Now, if you were in a Gold's Gym or you were in a gym where they have that, that certainly would be a decent substitute.
Will that create a Mr. Olympia chest?
I would say so. I would say so. If you did that machine and that machine alone, and you did enough of it and heavy enough, with enough frequency and all the other factors that need to be met, I would say that you could get enough stimulation on your pectoral muscles to develop a fantastic pectoral muscle, certainly better than with a barbell.
Interesting. So, and also it's convenient because the machine is there. All you have to do is select the weight and do it.
Now, I would imagine different people would experience it differently. Some people would love it, and some people would say, I don't like that it tells me what path to take. I like the feeling of the dumbbells or the cables, which let me determine the path I want to take. Some people say, I like that it tells me what path to take because I don't know otherwise.
Yeah, everyone is different. All right, let's move on to the next exercise.
Okay.
And then they take a plate off. All right.
Yeah, well, the taking the plate off, that's just, you know, a breakdown set, which gets into a physiological issue.
Yeah.
Which we can talk about, but again, we don't focus so much on the physiological aspect because that's not we're more in the mechanical aspect. The one thing I wanted you to notice was that the lever arm that's holding the weight starts off more vertical and ends up more horizontal, which means the resistance is increasing as you get to the top. Now, it might feel like that's a good thing for it to do. And the reason it might feel that way is because since your arms are getting more vertical and more straight, they're diminishing their moment arm. So it's sort of one adds when the other subtracts. So it might feel okay. Obviously, the biggest problem with that is that you're not bringing your hands together, right? You're not creating the pathway that the pectoral muscles want to do, which is to bring it toward the midline of the body, right? So that's an early hammer strength machine too. So the first thing I would do is swap the arms that go straight up with the arms that go in. 2, I would swap that angle of bench with one that goes more at a decline. And then you can determine whether or not you like how much ending resistance you have given the position of the loading arm of the machine.
Does that machine has its place in the chest workout? Meaning, let's say if you do the best exercises and you want to use that as a finisher.
No, it wouldn't. It would not be considered. Look, it's better than sitting on a couch eating potato chips, right? It's going to involve muscles that wouldn't otherwise be involved if you're sitting on the couch. But we're not trying to say, look, why don't we do any exercise that puts any amount of load on the pecs? We're trying to say which ones are the ones that do the most, right? Which ones are the best, right? Let's identify the ones that have the best range of motion, the best resistance curve, the best direction of anatomical motion, and then focus more on those or exclusively on those, and then, not waste your time on the ones that are lesser.
What is the machine like that do in Gold's gym? Like, to create that machine, they thought about it, they created it, they put it together, they brought it from the factory to Gold's gym, they installed it, and people are using it. There's a lot of time and thinking process to make that machine happen. Like, for you to say, like, no, debunking it, like making it look like it's not really a good machine to build the chest, some people will think that you're not serious about this, So is that the only machine that you saw in a gym like this? Because it looks like this machine doesn't have a big value.
Well, that would be like saying, why do they make bench presses? They took the time to weld a bench press, they brought it to the gym, they put a bar on it. It's like, well, yeah, that's because, there's an audience for it. There are buyers for that. There are believers in it. There are people who want to do that right now. I can tell you firsthand, because I was very much like the mindset of I guess you can say a traditional bodybuilder, which is anytime something new comes to the gym, it's a new toy. It's like, oh, great. Why do we say, oh, great? Well, we say, oh, great for a couple of reasons. One is because we might be mistakenly believing that all the exercises are good, that all of it is good, that all of them have equal value. Okay, that's not true, right? Because until you understand range of motion and early phase low, you realize that, these things do matter. They do play a role. That's number one. Number two is a manufacturer says, what would be fun to make? What would be fun for someone to use? Something that substitutes or complements a bench press. What's good about this? Well, what's good about this is that, it guides you. You can only push it in one direction. There's no balance required. You just put the plates on and then you go, right? So there's always going to be someone who's going to try it, and there's always going to be someone who likes it. Always, right? Now, the person who likes it may not be very discerning. They may not have a very good connection to their body. They may not know anatomy. They might not know physics. They might not care. All they know is it's more fun than a push-up.
Yeah.
It's different than a bench press. It gives them some variety. And for them, that's enough.
Yeah. Actually, when you said the push-up, like that's the push-up, right? That machine looks like a push-up, but you can choose the weight because the arms are still going this way, no?
Well, a push-up, obviously keeps your hands in one spot, just like that does, just like a barbell bench press does. So it's similar to a push-up in that sense, in that your hands are fixed in one spot, and they just travel linearly. They don't come in and out. So in that sense, yeah, but I would say this has an advantage over the push-up, because now you can choose less weight than body weight or more weight than body weight. But how good is that it's better than a push-up? Well, it's like saying it's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Okay, great. So that doesn't mean much.
But did you see what he did with his body? Like,
he arched back farther.
Yeah,
look, obviously we know that a decline angle of movement is much better than a flat or than an incline, certainly better than an incline. And the one thing that I noticed when I was watching that video is you could see him feeling his pecs contracting, as we typically do, right? When you flex your pecs, you always bring your arms low.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I've always said, you know, you don't ever see someone getting off of an incline press and then chesting the pump up here, right? They always check the pump low because they know where the pectoral muscle contracts. They just don't take it to the next step and say, well, if it contracts there, then why aren't I ending the movement there? Right? If that's telling me that's where the muscle shortening occurs, why am I not using an exercise that allows that muscle shortening in the same way? So the degree of decline is fairly extreme, right? So I would compare that to our extreme decline cable press. It's a good movement. I would say of the ones we've seen so far today, that's my favorite. That would be the one that I would prefer doing the most. Not as my primary movement because of the degree of decline, but as a secondary.
And when you sit a little bit like more as a like 110 degree versus this way, does that make a difference?
Well, yes, to a degree. When you are pushing more down toward your feet, you're pushing more toward the costal fibers, right? So that's why when we've said the best pectoral exercise for the chest is a slight decline angle press, right? Because then you're moving your arms toward the center of your sternum, where the greatest number of pectoral fibers are. So what he might have done is he might have sensed that, you know, he needed, you know, something at that particular moment. Maybe he wanted to feel more of a lower. Maybe that's why he angled himself. But the one that would have more value would be the one that's more of a slight decline.
Okay. Perfect. That's all the videos I have for you today. Looking forward to meet you in the upcoming days. We have
in Los Angeles,
yeah, we have many things to do together.
We're going to go to Las Vegas, and
Correct.
we're going to judge the Mr. Universe competition, the AAU Mr. Universe.
Yeah, that's interesting for me.
Yeah,
I will be recording it for our viewers also, and show them some of the things that are happening there. You know,
the one thing I want to say is that, you know, the videos that you showed me, of course, I have no idea what you're going to be showing me. And this is good. I like it this way. Yeah. You know, I want people to understand that, you know, we are not selling the Brig 20 as the only exercises that are good. What we're saying is the Brig 20 are good because they conform with 16 factors that determine efficiency. That hammer strength decline press conforms with most of the same ones. So if that's what you want to use rather than the cable press or the dump, that's okay. We're not opposed to alternatives. We are opposed to violating the 16 factors.
Yeah.
So it's the factors that matter. It's important for everyone to understand that factors do determine value when it comes to exercise efficiency. It just so happens that there's not very many exercises that conform with those factors. That's why it seems limited, right? But once you understand what those factors are and why they matter, then you realize the farther you get away from those factors, the more you lose exercise value. And again, you know, most of us are trying to simplify things, right? So if you're thinking about, and if you belong to a gym that has one of those hammer strength machines and you want to use that, then great, fantastic. But those of us that are trying to work out in a smaller space and limit, then you realize that that's going to take up a lot of room with, you know, only a one exercise value versus, you know, I work out in a gym that only has a multi-up machine, a decline, adjustable decline, a few benches and a multi adjustable cable machine. And we get everything we need, right? So that's the goal, is to do the most with the least.
Right. Perfect. So, since we're going to be seeing each other, if you have any suggestion that you want us to do while we're there, let us know. We will take advantage of that time. And till then, I will see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe. As I said, like, your help, you know, with subscribing will contribute to more video, more creation of content. And because this channel is running with like time and investment to be able to deliver these videos. So if you enjoy our videos, subscribing will help us tremendously. Thank you very much, Doug.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.